Shedeur Sanders hit with uncomfortable reality check from football world as jail Remark adds fuel to NFL draft slide. You know it's bad when the draft cameras stop zooming in. Shedeur Sanders went from being hyped as a top 2 overall lock to sitting through 4 brutal rounds, watching name after name get called before his. When Cleveland finally picked him at no. 144, it wasn't a celebration, it was a wake-up call. And just when it felt like things couldn't get messier, Shedeur Sanders grabbed a mic and made it worse, comparing his fall to being jailed. Yeah, he really said that. Shedeur Sanders' draft downfall was like watching a guy trip over his own shoelaces at the finish line. NFL scouts started chirping about how Shedeur came off cocky, brash, and entitled during combined interviews. One assistant coach even clowned him anonymously, saying, "The worst formal interview I've ever been a part of." Dex said he was so entitled, blamed teammates, and, brace yourself, he's not that good. Cold-blooded. But if you thought it was just smoke, Shedeur himself poured gasoline on the fire. After finally getting drafted, he hopped on Deion Sanders Jr.'s YouTube channel, well off media, and tried to explain his freefall, saying, "I just feel like people that are just being jailed for something they ain't doing, bro. And like, there's no explaining, there's no talking about it. Reasoning. Dog. Jailed. That's the word he chose." The internet went full nuclear mode after that, flipping tables and dunking on him harder than Ja Morant on a fast break. Now look, stat sheet Shedeur. Certified. 4,000 plus passing yards, 37 tutties, 74% completion. The numbers low-key scream QB1, but when you pop the hood, scouts ain't loving what they see. They're talking about him taking dumb sacks, slow reads, not exactly slinging that cannon arm you need to survive Sundays. Word is, Shedeur sometimes moved like he was stuck in molasses. Add in the fact that Shedeur allegedly showed up low-key unprepared to interviews, just so he could tank his stock and pick his landing spot. And it all starts to make ugly sense. Oh, and let's not forget Big Papa Prime. Deion Sanders himself was comparing Shedeur's situation to Eli Manning, hinting he might pull strings to steer his boy away from bad franchises. Allegedly, Brian DeBole from the Giants even dipped into Boulder for a private visit, but once he saw the vibes, Giants swerved and grabbed Jackson Dart at no. 25 instead. Not gonna lie, Deion's mouth might have cost his son a bag bigger than Colorado's mountains. The fans did not like his jail reference comment. First up, so after rumors of him falling because of a bad attitude/mentality, he doubles down and proceeds to play the victim. The Browns should do the funniest thing ever and cut a blow. This fan is cooking straight off the stove. People were already skeptical of Shedeur's attitude after combined interviews where coaches flat out called him entitled and unprofessional. Instead of hitting the humble button and resetting, he doubled down with the jail comment, the ultimate victim play. You can't lose millions in draft stock and then act like you're Nelson Mandela, and suggesting the Browns cut him would favor Dylan Gabriel on QB depth. Next fan didn't hold back either. Being a 23-year-old entitled squishhead with a Rolls Royce isn't really much like being in jail. First off, squishhead is Hall of Fame level roasting, but beyond the joke, the fan's making a real point. Shedeur isn't suffering. He's got NIL money, luxury cars, famous parents, and a path to the NFL. Calling draft disappointment jail felt tone-deaf to people who've actually struggled, especially when you show up to pre-draft visits flexing like you already made it. Another fan kept it simple but deadly. You gotta take some accountability, though. Look, you want to stay in the NFL. Accountability. Nobody likes locker room cancer, ask Antonio Brown. Accountability is the currency of the NFL. Guys like Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, they eat that for breakfast. If your first move after sliding in the draft is to blame the system instead of owning your flaws, like slow decision-making and sack-taking, you're sending a terrible message to teammates, coaches, and fans. And then came the sledgehammer. This is why no one wanted him. Entitled. Comparing jail to slipping in the draft is unhinged. Man, this one hurt. Unhinged is a strong word, but here. Fair game. Scouts weren't just worried about his footwork or athleticism. They were worried about the package deal of Shedeur and the primetime shadow. All the pre-draft smoke about him being cocky, brash, and difficult to coach wasn't some media fabrication. When you finally get the mic and instead of humility, you compare your draft experience to a civil rights violation, it's gonna stick. That's why teams passed. Not just for the on-field stuff, but because of stuff like this.